So for some of you who saw my video on the drive towards Dedham, this bit of road will seem familiar to you, but we're going to be making a diversion once we get to the top of this hill, and just take you on a little tour of some of the attractions of this part of the Orwell estuary. So we're in the village of Chelmerdiston and just making our way down this little lane, which will take us to Pin Mill, where there is a fabulous pub right on the banks of the river, and it's a thriving little area, sort of boatyard, marina, and one of my favourite secret places to go in Suffolk. Very narrow lane here, so we just need to be a little bit careful as we go past these parked cars. This is a wonderful site, and you'll see there are quite a number of houseboats. Yeah, so the pub, which is the Butt and Oyster, is a real attraction for people and visitors here. So we'll just have a little look at this point. So you can see we're mid-May and the cow parsley is already on the verges. There's been a recent policy of no cut in May by local authorities to try to create better habitats for insects and well, pollinators especially, and it's rather nice to see. Takes me back to a time when in Suffolk the verges were all mown by hand. You know, there'd be a chap with a bicycle and a scythe who would literally sort of spend the summer working his way along the little roads, keeping them cut. And because it would take so long to do, it meant that the habitats would sort of, you know, remain active for much longer. But since the work was sort of contracted out and you know, has been mechanised. You know, the guys can sort of come through and whip through an entire village within a morning. So I'm being a little bit careful as we go through the corners here, because there is not much room for two cars to pass each other. I thought I'd give you a little view of the back end, so looking out over the boot lid. And the reason I did that was that for a part of my early childhood, that was my view out of the Triumph Vitesse. My father bought his Vitesse new in 1967, and I would have been about 2 years old then, and well, let us say times were different. There were no seat belts in his car because we lived abroad and it was an export model, and certainly nobody ever thought about strapping children in the back seat, and so I used to ride in the back, sort of sitting up on my knees, sort of facing out over the boot lid, and yeah, it was great fun. I think I can just get past him up there, can I? Yeah, it's going to be a squeeze. There you go. Thank you. Did you?
Yes.
Was it a Herald or a Vitesse?
A Herald.
Yeah. Well.
In 1970s.
Yeah. Well, they were still common until the sort of late 1970s. But yeah, one of the advantages is they're quite narrow, as you can see. You too. Nice to see you. Bye bye. Yeah, that's an example of the conversations I often have with people. Which starts, I used to have one of these, and sometimes it's my dad had one of these, and of course in my case my dad had one of these, which is where my love affair with Vitesses came from. But they always seem to bring a smile to people's faces. What is interesting is the confusion between the Vitesse and the Herald, and of course the Herald was a much more common car, and there are many more of them. So a lot of people learned to drive in Triumph Heralds because they were, for a time, the car of choice of the British School of Motoring, or BSM I should say. And yeah, one has to remember that for most of the people who bought them back in the 60s, they were just cars. They weren't anything particularly special to them. They were a means of getting from A to B. But they've become special in retrospect, and you know, obviously enthusiasts like me think they're special. We've had the dog walker, now we've got a horse rider, so I'll just let her move in very gently, and I'll come past as quietly as I can. I'm always aware that the stainless steel sports exhaust on this car is particularly noisy, and frankly there isn't a quiet way to go past someone, but so as we come down the hill, we're coming towards the confluence, and this is the River Stour right ahead of us. Off to our left is the Orwell. We'll just come in and give you a little sort of look at the estuary. On the far bank is the port of Harwich, and for people who've used the ferry service to the Hook of Holland, they'll be familiar with Harwich. This is a great spot again for dog walking, and a lot of people come down here either for a drink at the Bristol Arms, or as you'll see there's a bar a little bit further along here. But it's a great place if you enjoy ship spotting. Not sure if that's a thing, but if you're like me and you enjoy watching the traffic in and out of the ports, then this is one vantage point that allows you to do this in comfort. And right ahead of us is on the far bank, I don't know if you can see this, but is the Evergreen, which is sort of docked at the moment, which I think is one of the sister ships of the Ever Given, which famously got itself stuck in the Suez Canal a couple of years ago, caused all sorts of supply problems. But yeah, beautiful afternoon to come and have a look at this. So just negotiate these speed humps. But Shotley Gate has a very active marina, and there's a lock which allows the yachts to enter and leave the yacht harbour regardless of the tides. It looks pretty busy today, quite a lot of cars, so we'll see if we can find somewhere to park. You can see one of the lightships, which sort of marks the point where the two rivers meet. across towards Harwich. Right, find some more roads. I'm not making a political point when I say this, but it's interesting looking at the port of Felixstowe this afternoon and reminding myself of how much busier it always seemed to be before the pandemic, and one could argue before Brexit. And it's possible that that I've got this wrong, that the official trade figures would say otherwise. But my memory of pre-pandemic, pre-Brexit visits here was that there was much more traffic coming into the port, both here and across the water at Harwich. So something has definitely changed, and whether environmentally it's a good thing or a bad thing from a trade perspective, I'm not really in a position to judge. But if you're someone who's watching who has more of an insight into how busy or quiet the UK ports are at the moment compared to how they were a few years ago, perhaps you'd like to let me know in the comments. So we're now heading back towards Ipswich and coming down the hill towards the river again. So very shortly we'll see the Orwell Bridge, and just gives you another perspective. Gosh, the tide's out. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this trip out with me this afternoon in Tess, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care.